Okay, boys and girls, right now we are setting up a model of the seasons as the Earth travels around the sun. The flashlight here represents the sun. This is our Earth, and the Earth is always tilted at 23.5 degrees, which is about like this. I might not be able to get that perfect on this cup, but it is close enough. As the Earth travels around the sun, here's our sun, it always travels in a counterclockwise direction like this. And the North Pole is always tilted in the same direction. So it goes around like this. Notice how the North Pole is always tilted that way as it goes around. It doesn't do this, and then this, and then this. It always stays the same direction. That tilt is what gives us our seasons, because sometimes you get more heat, and sometimes you get less heat. The sun's light has heat in it. So whichever hemisphere is getting more light, it's getting more heat. So let's take an observation about this right here. On your sheet, right here, where it says position A, we are in position A, that's December. We have the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, that's the equator. Here's the North Pole, and the South Pole is down here. So we want to make an observation about what's going on at position A. Well, I can see that the sun, you know what, y'all take a look and think for a second. What do you notice going on? Which hemisphere is getting more light, which is getting less light? Okay, good answer. Hopefully you said the southern hemisphere is getting more light and the northern hemisphere is getting less light. Boys and girls, if the hemisphere is getting more light, light has heat in it. So if it's getting more light, it has more heat. If it has more heat, we're going to call that what time of year? What time of year has the most heat in it? That would be summer. So for the people down here in the southern hemisphere, it is summer for them. Up here, we're not getting as much light, so we're not getting as much heat. What time of year do we call it when we don't get as much heat? It's going to be colder. That would be winter time. So it's opposites. In December, it is winter time for us, but down here, it's summertime for them. And it's all because of the tilt of the Earth and how much light they're getting. So write that down on your observation or type it in. In the northern hemisphere, we're getting less light, so we get less heat in the northern hemisphere. That's where you and I live. And you can also write down in this box, the southern hemisphere is getting more light, so it's getting more heat. Sometimes people think about Christmas. We always think about, oh boy, you know, Christmas time is coming. I need to check and make sure that my coat still fits me, and maybe it will snow in time for Christmas. Down in the southern hemisphere, they're not thinking at all about cold weather. They're thinking about, hey, it's time to go to the beach, for maybe we can go have a picnic at the beach on Christmas Day, because down there it is summertime for them. The Earth moves around over here, and we're going to have to turn the flashlight. Right here, this is March, and in March, well, which hemisphere do you think is getting more light? It's equal. Notice how the North Pole and South Pole are alongside of the Earth. What was the term you used? In line with the Earth's orbit right here. So it's not tilted toward the sun. It's not tilted away from the sun. It is alongside the sun right here. And the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere are getting equal amounts of light. That means they're getting equal amounts of temperature. This is March. This is going to be either spring or autumn. And another name for autumn is fall. Well, which one would it be for us? If we just had winter over here, hopefully you know after winter in March we have spring. So up here in the northern hemisphere, it's spring, but down in the southern hemisphere, it would be fall. So for us, we're starting to have the grass start to grow, the flowers are coming out, the leaves are coming out on the trees, but down here in the southern hemisphere, they're starting to go into fall, so the leaves are falling off the tree, and it's starting to get cooler. Let me turn my sun back on. This is March. So write that down on your observation right here for position B. You would say that the northern and southern hemisphere have equal amounts of light, and they pretty much have equal temperature, because remember that there is heat in the light. Let me move the Earth on around over here. This is June. And now we have the northern hemisphere tilted at the sun. So take a look right here. Who's getting more light, the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere? Hopefully you're thinking that the northern hemisphere is getting more light. If it's getting more light, it's getting more heat. And so what season do we call it when it's very hot outside? For us, it would be summertime up here. But then in the southern hemisphere, they're not getting as much light, they're not getting as much heat. It is winter time for them. So please write that down where it says position C in June, northern hemisphere getting more light and heat, that's summer. Southern hemisphere is getting less light and less heat, that is winter. So when we say summertime in June, they are not having summertime down in the southern hemisphere. When they say June, they're starting to wonder, hey, are we going to get snow? Maybe we can make a snowman, because that is their winter time, even though it's the month of June. So we move around over here. And now it's September. And which hemisphere is getting more light? Well, the North Pole and South Pole are in line with the Earth's orbit. It's not tilted toward the sun or away from the sun, it's alongside of the sun. And so if you look right here, hopefully you can tell that neither hemisphere is getting more light. It's equal light in the northern and southern hemisphere. So that's going to be either spring or fall. Well, which one is it for us? Well, in June, if that's summer, for us, what comes after summer? Fall. So up here in the northern hemisphere where you and I live, it would be fall, which is also called autumn. Down here, it would be springtime for them. So you can write that down here where it says position D. In September, the northern hemisphere has fall and the southern hemisphere has spring. And the temperatures are about the same. And if you think about what it's like in the fall and spring, it's pleasant temperatures in each season. And then the Earth comes back around here and it starts all over again. Okay? Just remember, the opposite of summer is winter, the opposite of spring is fall, and whenever the northern hemisphere has summer, then whenever one hemisphere has summer, the other hemisphere has winter, and whenever one hemisphere has fall, the other one has spring. Those are always opposites. So now, using that information, rewind this video if you need to. Let's go back and take a look at these right here, these questions. See if you can fill these in. Some of them might try to trick you. It may say which hemisphere is getting more light or which hemisphere is getting more heat. It could be the northern hemisphere, it could be the southern hemisphere, or you could write equal. Because for some of them, like when it is springtime or fall, they're getting equal amounts of light and equal amounts of heat. And then come down here and do your best to fill this in based on the information here and based on what I showed you in the video. Please rewind the video if you need to. Thank you.
And then for reference, on the plate, D is September, that should be fall. A is December, B is March, and C is June.